Hi. Thanks very much for all the work, especially because I imagine there are times when it feels like the light at the end of the tunnel is just a tiny speck. I have a question for all of you because it seems like you are extremely powerful community-based organization, and that's come up a lot. And I'm curious what you think, what are the struggles you have to make a successful community-based organizations, and what are the things that you think you've been able to really do well in that respect that has made you able to tap into the various communities that you work for and work with? So yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Well, for me, the one thing I think stands out the most is, I guess, leadership development. Because that's how I came into the organization, and the organization kind of swallowed me up. Okay, I came in, knowing there were certain things that I wanted to change, certain things that needed to change. But, as one person, you don't know how that's going to happen. But with the organization itself being, mostly women of color, they kind of surround you with the information that you need, with the kind of help and resources that are going to make you more powerful. I mean, going to meet with, when you hear Maisha talking about, get involved, let those representatives know that they work for you. Well, you're sitting around watching them on TV all the time and you're thinking, well, they're the most powerful people in the world. But once that idea has been struck in your head by somebody in the organization saying, no, they work for you. And people trading you and talking to you about, well, what their real job is and how you can make these things change. And I never even thought about it. I knew that there were policies that were affecting things in my community, but it never occurred to me that there were policies that I could change. I just thought, well, okay, they're in place for a reason. Obviously somebody thought they were a good reason. But once the organization says, hey, listen, let's talk about this. And we sat down and we talked about it, and I realized, well, this policy is maybe good for somebody somewhere upstate, but it's not working for us here in Central Brooklyn. So for me, the leadership development was the biggest component of that, because that's what kept me going. In spite of everything that was going on, when the losses came or the minute wins came, that always said to me, okay, listen, if I can move this far, then I can move it that far. And with the Downtown Brooklyn campaign that we have going on now, we know that it's a hard fight and that it's going to take a lot of time, and it's already taken a lot of time. But each and every one of those wins has made a difference and made us feel stronger. So for me, yes, developing, once you've got somebody coming into the organization, they understand that this organization can make some changes, and you develop them as leaders and they're starting to pull other leaders in, you can't lose.
What made me so interested about what did happen in the community and what has happened today is, first of all, it took a little understanding about those folks that's in the community, what folks that's doing the surviving and what folks that's not doing the surviving. So we take it a little bit further, starting off in public housing. By me being a resident of public housing, I didn't never have that active in me besides owning a Boy Scout club at the public school. So right after Katrina come, Katrina made a big job for me, certain around public housing after those folks couldn't return to their home. So a lot of folks got in it. A lot of folks said it's a lot of work, not knowing that this work can continue until we get justice here. So a lot of folks just actually backed out of it. They got to a point where they didn't see that we was doing any winning, but I had seen that they did a lot of winning, because the winning that I said, it's the small things, it's not the great big thing. Some folks say, well, the public housing is tore down now. Okay, it's all over with. No, actually it's not over with. You still got to deal with folks' lives and and the way folks are living, and make sure that they have a right place to live. So you have to continue this fight. I mean, not, if you're going to get in it, get in it. You understand? You're going to have some obstacles in the way, but you're going to get something out of it, because we took this organization and this community all around the world. We took it over in Indonesia, where they had the tsunami over there. We took it over in Jakarta, where they had the earthquake. Those folks is just becoming to organize. And with those folks that's organized overseas, we can learn from people in other countries. So I took that mentality. It's best for to learn, listen, learn, and use it in your community. So what I did, I took whatever needed to make the community better today. I used that. And now we have a lot of attention on the community that was done after Katrina. And so the peoples, they coming back home slowly, but they will be all back home pretty soon.
Can we hear, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Me, myself, personally, I was able to really do something that I never, thought I'd be able to do, and that's exposing people for who they really are. And I'm 35 years old, and I never seen so many politicians, to go down for corruption in New Orleans at a rapid rate. And one day, I just sat back and I thought about it. I said, this all, this protesting and demanding we have been doing in direct action, in this progress. And I never thought, I could never see which way the progress was gonna come and what kind of form it was coming in. But every day I open up the Time-Picayune newspaper and I see, it's coming. It's not happening in which a way that so many people will want it to happen, but it is coming. And another thing is, I can remember one day at a Hanover board meeting, I addressed Mr. Dwayne Muhammad. He was over the Section 8 housing program, and I confronted him about Hanover employees that were selling Section 8 vouchers and giving away Section 8 vouchers to their family members. And he said, well, Ms. Jasper, that could never happen. That's impossible because you can't manipulate the system. So maybe 3 or 4 weeks after that, I read in the newspaper, that he had charges pending against him, for corruption, for the mismanagement of the Section 8 program. And now I sit back and I say, well, even though he was facing 10 years, he only getting 8 months, but I know those 8 months in federal penitentiary to him will feel like 20 years.
And I would just say to, did you want to say something, Max? No? Okay. I would just say to speak to some of the challenges of sort of organizing on this level. It's hard because people are tired, and at the same time, they can be complacent. I think it has to do with living in sort of like the type of hyper-capitalist society that we live in, especially in New York, where people want quick wins, right? Where it's like, oh, here's this problem. What are you guys gonna do, right? And so I think that one of the ways that Fury as a community-based organization has overcome some of those challenges is the fact that we do leadership development, we do political education, we take the time to sort of train our members, to teach them about sort of like the structural things that are going on, which is why we have these sort of long, protracted fights. We teach them about campaign development, we teach them how to facilitate meetings, agitation and recruitment trainings and things like that. And so it's, just making people understand that it's not always going to be a quick win, but it's going to be worth it.
Did you want to say something from Take Back the Land, Mike? I'm part Max. The question was like the light at the end of the tunnel and how they are able to mount this effort of organizing. Can you kind of rephrase for me?
Yeah, and I'm interested in particular because a lot of even before the panel got there, part of the conversation that was happening in the room is this kind of question about real local community activism versus maybe outsiders or versus, and how you can have a really successful community local organization as well as what some of the struggles are in putting that on. And
so Max, could you respond to that as well? From your perspective.
Well, I think we've only been able to do really two things pretty well. One is just to recognize that we're in a little bit of a different time, and different times require different actions. And so I think we've been able to identify that and adjust. And we really started Take Back the Land in direct response to the crisis of gentrification and morphed it as the bust began to happen, in the housing bust began to happen. And the second thing I think we've been able to do is to not recognize what some potential answers are, but be willing to do the things that we recognize. I think most organizations at some point, and most community groups, and even most people have thought that this was a relatively simple thing to figure out, but just have, in one way or another, talked themselves out of the obvious answer. So there have been, in Miami City and County Commission meetings, where they sat and they had one part of the meeting where they said, what are we gonna do about all these empty houses? And they spent 2 hours talking about what to do about the empty houses. And then the next item on the agenda is, what do we do about all these people who don't have anywhere to live? And they never make the connection between the two, even though it's extremely obvious. So I think it's extremely obvious that you move the people into the houses. And if the banks or the government don't want to cooperate, then you do it anyway. And I think that a lot of organizations have figured this out also, but for one reason or another, they talk themselves out of it, or they try to make something which is extremely simple, much more complicated. So I think our ability to recognize that and then do it without a whole bunch of other things around it, I think has also been something that we've done. But that really, is it.
I'm an organizer over in the Carrollton area, in a little town they call Pigeon Town mostly, but it's actually Pension Town. So I understand, and appreciate the many layers that I'm sure you all deal with all at the same time. I recently said in a meeting that the type of organizing we do in the Carrollton area, you have to be very well trained in chess, poker, and Russian roulette. So my question is about the successes in your local government. In New Orleans, you probably saw a little bit from the film, our democratic process here is completely shot. The residents in communities like mine don't even get to make decisions about public dollars that are being spent in the community. Even for, in my situation, a community center that is entirely funded with state appropriated dollars, we don't even get to weigh in on how that money is spent. So I'd like to hear from you on your successes in being able to just be a stakeholder and be known as a stakeholder in the work that you do from your local government.
So I think, again, talking about what the different time is that we're in now, I think we recognize that we're in a different time and therefore we have to behave differently. The center of organizing for the past 20 years, maybe a little bit more, has been on the ability of organizations, the idea that organizations and communities have to have the ability to influence those who are in elected office. And at the same time, those in elected office increasingly are representing corporations and wealthy individuals rather than the communities who they're supposed to represent. I think we are continue to make a strategic error by continuing to try to figure out what elected officials can do for us, or by defining our power by the extent to which we can influence them. Now, I want to make clear, I'm not being naive or unrealistic about the amount of power that local government has. I recognize they have a lot of power, and they have our money, and they got a lot of guns as well. But when we did the Emoja Village, the first thing we did is Take Back the Land, is we identified a vacant piece of land in the Liberty City section of Miami. We seized control over it, we took it, and then we built a shanty town there. We built housing. It was rudimentary housing, was substandard, but we built housing there. And we took it, and we built the housing for our people that the government was unwilling or unable to build. And we ended up doing two things at the same time. We not only built the housing, but they wanted to give that land away to a developer for free so they could build a condo. And we stopped the condo from happening, not because we went to some meetings
50 hours of meetings and lobbied. We stopped it because we were on the land and they couldn't build anything while we were sitting on it. When we took over the land and we were there for a week, the assistant city manager came to us and he said, look, you have our attention. We know that you're here. What do you want? Let's work this out. Let's figure this out. And we said, okay, we have our demands for you. And he took out his pen and paper. He said, okay, what are your demands? We said, we want you to get off our property. And that was literally our only demand. We didn't ask them for more housing because we don't believe they're going to build it. We didn't ask them for money because we know they wouldn't give it. We didn't ask them to change the law because we knew they wouldn't do it. We told them we want them to get off of the land that we took over, and we didn't want them bothering us or otherwise impeding in what we're doing for our own community. I think we have traditionally defined the power of an organization by the extent to which we can influence local government. I think we should define the power of organization now by the extent to which we can solve the problems in our community ourselves outside of the scope and range of local governments. And while I think that may have been very difficult to do before, now it is increasingly possible to do for a number of reasons. One, people are less likely to think that the government can solve their problems. And second, because of the way they're spending money on these corporations, the governments are going to have less and less ability to actually do it. And we're going to have to be increasingly reliant on ourselves in order to do it. And I think we should start that increasing reliance now rather than waiting until we really have no choice.
Can I spice this soup a little bit? So I hear distinctive different tactics, right? Not different goals, but different tactics. And what does it look like when you have a group of people who are taking the approach that Max just described, right? And simultaneously, you have a group taking the approach that Fury and Mayday Nola have been describing.
My name is Cody Marshall of C3 Hands Off Albertville, on another group of Reopening Charity and also Mayday. All I have to say is that I was also a part of the struggle. And without, not just without we would be no progress at all. So without the people that you lean on and look up to, don't just step on them on the ladder. We all deserve each other. You also should look up to each other for everything. It's like, look at what they do in the lower mid-city, just like they said in Brooklyn. With the mall, they want to close the streets down, tear down all 70 acres, and build this new hospital, VA and LSU. Well, if the money run out, it's just going to be a whole piece of land. It's all about progress. It's not about what organization is getting this, or organization is getting that. It's all about progress. If we can fight together, we could win. Don't listen to what the people say. Don't listen to what your friends or your family say. Keep doing what you're doing, and you'll see a positive attitude.
I think I was kind of on the same wavelength that my brother was talking about. I'm looking at this beautiful panel, and I am seeing the different strategies of the way that you're handling the same issue. And the creator, that's just my kind of purpose anyway. I'm always good for putting the people who need to be in a room together and working together. But have you ever thought about, I know you do it on certain levels, but an alliance of sort between many organizations just like yourselves that are right here that are doing the same thing from different tactics? Because I look at this brother, he's like, phase one, let's get him in. You know what I'm saying? And then phase two, let's hit him up at the board meetings, let's get these policies going. But we got phase one going. Has that ever crossed any of your minds as far as alliances with other corporate or other organizations?
When Max doesn't live in New Orleans, he lives in Brooklyn, we like to think. And so like those kind of things are definitely happening. Like we're definitely seeing that, you know, like our each individual organizations, we're building power locally, but we can definitely truly build like larger amounts of power when we really start connecting our work to each other. So maybe, I don't know, Max, if you want to talk about how Take Back the Land is moving towards a national front. And then today we just met Sam Jackson, I'm sorry, you know, like, because Rob Robinson from Picture the Homeless, before Fury left out from Brooklyn, was just like on the phone or on the email, like getting us connected electronically, and then all of us, you know, like getting to talking, because we know like the forces that we have to go up against are way more well-resourced than we are, but we outnumber them, you know, and that's where we have to start, you know, shifting our thinking to. But if you could.
So we recognize that there's no way, what we want to do, what Take Back the Land fundamentally wants to do, is to transform land relationships. So in a real way, we are not a housing organization. We are a land organization. And we think the only way we're going to impact even housing issues is by changing land relationships. And we know that we can't transform land relationships in this society with a group of people in Miami taking over 10 or 15 homes, which is the range we've done in Miami. So we've started, with the help of the U.S. Human Rights Network, building a national network of organizations who are willing to engage in Take Back the Land style work. And we're calling for a May 2010 month of action, where in May of this year, we'll have a month of action, organizations doing either housing liberation or eviction defense for families who are facing eviction. We have now organizations in 12 cities signed up who are going to be engaged in this activity in May, including Fury, by the way. And we just had our first conversations with Mayday for doing that, but we have Survivors Village here in New Orleans. And so the other reason I'm down here, not only to be on this panel, but we had a session with Survivors Village and Mayday yesterday, and we have another session with them before I leave. So we think that the only way that this thing is gonna take off and happen in any significant way is by having organizations around the country doing this. So right now we've got organizations in Miami, St. Petersburg, New Orleans, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New York City, Boston, Massachusetts, Chicago, Illinois, Madison, Wisconsin, and Portland, Oregon, who will be doing either housing liberations or defenses or both in May 2010. And that will start the process of us engaging in a prolonged struggle, not for housing now, but for control, community control over land. And then once we control that land, we can decide what we do with it. So we are working together. One of the components is direct action, and we have to do that. Another component is some of these other things that we have to do, and we have to do those also. I happen to think that right now the progressive movement doesn't have the power to go to groups and say, to go to the government and say, this is what we want done, and negotiate and have that done. The only way we're going to have that power is by seizing control of large plots of land, large amounts anyway, even not large singular plots. That's the only way we're going to be able to build the leverage that we need to have in order to enter into negotiations and say, this is what we want, and we want you to, and we're in a position to say, you need to give it to us. That's the only way I think we're going to be able to do that, is by doing that large number of takeovers. So in the same way that during the civil rights era in the 50s and 60s, we have people who did sit-ins in order to establish our right to sit where we want on a bus, or eat where we want to eat a sandwich, or live where we want to live. We are calling in May 2010 for organizations around the United States to engage in live-ins, where we will be going to housing, and we will be living in them, and we will be staying there until they force us out. And chances are, if we do this in the right way, they won't be able to force us out, just like they weren't able to force us out in the 50s and 60s.
Wow. Well, could I help answer some of that question? There's a difference between Take Back the Land and the right to return. We, here in the city of New Orleans, we actually took on, which is, was stationed right across the street from City Hall, which was our main government, local government building, where we had our mayor he comes in and out to go to work, and you got folks all laying down in the park looking for a place to stay. Some people's dying, and he seemed that seemed not to get much attention from him. So what we had to do, we had to go and rethink about the tactic that we're going to use against our federal government. So what happened with the federal government on the federal side, we have to, our media cover took up much of that attention to make sure that the federal side and all the visits to Washington, D.C., they get what's going on here in the city of New Orleans. Quite sure we work different from Take Back the Land, because those folks that was in public housing, we tried to take public housing back. I mean, we fought for public housing. We had a couple of sit-ins through public housing. The folks still destroyed public housing. So what will happen here, we still have folks still homeless. But with this new construction coming up, we want to make sure that those folks be involved into the new construction that's been coming up. Since the rules and regulations that keep those low-income folks from being part of this new construction, we right now, excuse me, right now we are fighting a policy, not just only here in New Orleans, we're fighting a policy nationwide, because we is the only organization here in New Orleans, but the folks that's working national with Mayday, the folks that seem to be going through the same similar problem in other states through public housing, where folks being evicted, put out. We tried to come together and use the same tactic that's going on in other parts of the city in order to bring attention on New Orleans and what's still happening to New Orleans. So I think that when things went working great, we actually got a policy coming up now, which will that we excuse me, that we're putting together in order to fight this policy. This policy also requires 11,000 jobs for here in New Orleans, which was part of our Section 3 program that we have been fighting here in Lower New Orleans for folks to have jobs. And it also accumulate more houses, affordable houses. So that is the policy. We just got it. We're working on it. We're trying to see, can we get it not only in New Orleans, we're going to get it national where it can get more attention. And the only way that we can get attention to attack our government is to stay involved and also get the media cover, also visit D.C., talk to the right folks. So it's a difference between Take Back the Land.
And with Fury, and all hats off, because we're ready for May 2010. And when he came in and started talking about the programs to us, I mean, it's like, it just energizes you for the things that you're already doing. And our approach has been different too. But when I heard him say it, I was like, yeah, we need to go there. But with us, it was, a matter of us getting to our local politicians and our state elected officials because of the kind of campaigns we had. And every year we do a convention where we put our elected officials on the stage just like this, and the community gets to talk to them about what it is that we need and why aren't you doing what it is that we want. Okay, and at the first convention, you had nobody. None of the elected officials were showing up. That was fine. We put their pictures up on the program and we gave our demands anyway. And we had media there that would, spread the news to the politicians who chose not to show up. And each year that we did that convention, the podium got bigger and bigger, to the point that is everybody wanted to be at the convention now because Fury had some say. And I understand, you look at these politicians, you know why they voted the way that they voted, because somebody has stuck a couple of dollar bills in their back pocket. And when they sign off on these horrendous co-ops that are going up, it's because somebody said, okay, there's something in it for you. And initially, people did not want to talk to us, but we lived at the City Hall. Our members lived there. We constantly were there. We constantly bombarded them until now they're at the point where, yeah, they're calling Fury. Instead of us calling them, they're calling us to say, what is it that you need at this point? Okay, we know it's not going to be an easy job because certainly all of them, have some stake in these condos and these parking lots and tearing down our housing projects, but we're going to keep their feet to the fire until they do what it is right for the community.
It feels like to me, and if somebody else feels differently, I'm open to that, that the time has come. I heard a very clear voice crying out back there, saying that it's time to probably shift gears and maybe take a breather in between this session and the next session. What I feel it is happening, starting with Freedom Riders, right to this very moment, is that we're getting this expedited master's degree in community organizing. If you were to sit and participate in all of these programs, I feel like you would know more than the average citizen knows about how to do these things. And not only would you know something, you have these like very practical, live, in the flesh, you know, human beings that you can actually basically draw from, glean from. And then you can, right afterwards, you can have conversations with them and you can exchange information. So one last thing I'd like all the panelists to do, or at least one representative from each group to do, is give your website so that people can like find you, contact you, and you know, let's build something.
I really appreciate y'all coming out to support the community. And I hope that you can join us in some of our May Day meeting to help us continue this fight. If you want to see some of our work that we have been doing, our website is maydaynolahousing.org. Our partner website is Nazareth, NERSI.org. And also, we are a member to restorehousingright.org. And you can see some of the work that we have been doing over the last 4 or 5 years and up to today, that the work that we continue doing. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out and hope to see you soon.
Hi, so to reach Fury, we will likely, if anybody's going out to the U.S. Social Forum, we will likely be showing how to adopt our leadership development model, so we can go through like, you know, like that whole scale. But if you can't, our website is www.furee.org. It's kind of outdated right now, but we're gonna get the new website up in about a couple of weeks. And if you don't have access to the internet, our phone number is 718-852-2960, and those are both of the ways that you can get in contact with us.
All right, now I want to thank everyone for coming and also for Patois Film Festival for making this possible, this wonderful panel. And to get in touch with us, you can go to www.takebacktheland.org, all one word, takebacktheland.org.